Yeah, I did it all for the... Yeah, I did it all for the Vine. Okay, history lovers! Welcome back to the channel where today we bring you the insane story of the most famous criminal couple of all time, Bonnie and Clyde. But before we get into it, do me a favor, click that like button. Let's see if we can hit 10,000 likes on this episode. During the Great Depression, two names captured both fear and fascination. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. Young, reckless, and in love. They lived fast, robbed banks, killed without mercy, and died in a hail of bullets. This is the full story of America's most infamous outlaw couple. So sit back and let's get to it. Bonnie Elizabeth Parker was born in 1910 in Texas when her father died. Her mother raised her and her siblings in Dallas. Bonnie was smart, artistic, and loved poetry. At 16, she married Roy Thornton, but the marriage collapsed, and by 1929 he was in prison. Though still married legally, Bonnie was on her own, dreaming of something bigger than waitressing in a cafe. Meanwhile, in the poor farming communities of Ellis County, Texas, Clyde Chestnut Barrow was born in 1909. His family moved to West Dallas seeking work, but poverty defined his childhood. By his teens, Clyde had turned to petty crime-stealing cars, breaking into stores and dreaming of escaping poverty. At first, he played the saxophone, dreaming of music. But the streets pulled him toward crime. In January 1930, Clyde met Bonnie at a friend's house. She was 19, he was 20. The attraction was instant. Bonnie saw a daring outlaw. Clyde saw a loyal companion. Soon, they were inseparable. Even when Clyde was jailed later that year, Bonnie stayed by his side, smuggling him a gun to help him escape. In July 1930, Clyde was arrested for auto theft and sentenced to serve 10 years at Eastham Prison Farm, one of Texas's harshest prisons. There, he endured beatings and abuse that left him bitter and violent. To avoid brutal labor, he chopped off 2 toes with an axe. When he was finally released in 1932, Clyde was no longer a petty thief. He was a hardened outlaw, vowing never to go back. And upon reuniting with Bonnie, the two immediately embarked on a crime spree that would capture the attention of the entire country. Once free, Clyde reunited with Bonnie and formed the Barrow Gang. It included his brother Buck, Buck's wife, Blanche, young W.D. Jones, and others. Together, they began robbing banks, gas stations, and small shops across America's heartland. Clyde's love of fast cars, especially the Ford V8, helped them outrun police again and again. Their robberies were violent. In Joplin, Missouri, 1933, police raided their hideout. A bloody shootout left 2 officers dead. The gang escaped but left behind something that would make them infamous. Those photos, Bonnie with a pistol in hand and a cigar in her mouth, were splashed across newspapers. Suddenly, the couple were national celebrities. To the public, they were daring lovers, rebelling against a broken system. But the truth was far darker. They lived in stolen cars, slept outdoors, and ate canned beans. Bonnie herself suffered terrible burns in a car crash, crippling her for life. Yet she never left Clyde's side. Throughout their travels, the gang kidnapped several motorists, stealing their cars and sometimes killing them. Despite this, many people were inexplicably drawn to the couple. And wherever they went, crowds gathered trying to catch a glimpse of the notorious duo. In April 1933, Buck Barrow was shot and killed during a robbery. Although grief-stricken, the couple continued their rampage. Then, in September, Blanche Barrow was captured, serving as a key witness to send 3 members of the gang to prison. This didn't stop Bonnie and Clyde, though. With new recruits, they carried on. In November 1933, the couple was involved in another shootout with police in Bienville Parish, Louisiana. To get away, they fled into the nearby woods, hiding out in a cabin owned by Henry Methvin. Unbeknownst to the outlaws, Methvin was also the father of a local deputy's wife, and the two alerted the authorities. When a posse arrived at the cabin, Clyde and Bonnie once again escaped, although not before leaving some more pictures behind. These would become the most iconic images of the couple. Now, the couple continued to evade the police while making their way through Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, living in stolen cars and sleeping wherever they could. During this time, Bonnie wrote poems expressing her frustrations over their constant struggle to stay one step ahead of the cops. In January 1934, they raided Eastham Prison, freeing inmates. But this bold act sealed their fate. Texas lawmen vowed to hunt them down. Meanwhile, the press followed closely behind, building up the legend of the Barrow Gang. On May 23, 1934, after receiving a tip that the gang was traveling along a remote stretch of highway in Louisiana, former Texas Ranger Frank Hammer set a deadly trap with 14 members of the posse hidden in ambush. The men waited patiently in the hot sun. Then, at around 9:15 a.m., Bonnie and Clyde's Ford V8 approached. Without warning, the posse opened fire. Over 100 bullets riddled the car. Clyde was killed instantly. Bonnie screamed before being cut down. She was only 23. He was 24. News spread like wildfire. Crowds rushed to the site, some trying to cut souvenirs from their clothes. Even the police seemed oddly excited to have found the infamous pair. Their funerals drew thousands. Clyde wanted to be buried with Bonnie, but her family refused. Even in death, they were kept apart. Soon after, Frank Homer claimed that Bonnie and Clyde had robbed between 13 and 15 banks and 4 gas stations. He estimated that they had killed 9 police officers and 7 civilians. However, these numbers are disputed, with researchers believing that the total number of victims may have been much higher. After their deaths, the Barrow Gang became legends. To some, they were rebels against a cruel system. To others, they were ruthless killers. Either way, their story inspired songs, books, and the famous 1967 film starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. The truth is, Bonnie and Clyde are remembered as much for their style and the myth that surrounded them as for the actual crimes they committed. Even today, the Barrow Gang remains an iconic symbol of the American Depression era, and the image of Bonnie leaning against a stolen car is instantly recognizable. So what do you think? Were Bonnie and Clyde folk heroes or cold-blooded criminals? You decide in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, check out our series on infamous gangsters next. We guarantee you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.